Hey guys, Mike here. So, kind of an interesting day in the market, right? We got a little inflation data that came out and it came in a little higher than expected, right? But for some odd reason, the market did go into the red, pulled itself right back out of it, but it stayed in this range. And I'm going to talk to you about that and show you exactly why I think it stayed in that range, and something I'm going to start tracking a lot more closely from now on in. And, we started off with this right here. And I got to ask, for people who follow this stock, Lululemon, like I saw this $1.7 billion of inventory. They just reported on earnings up 85% year over year. Like that just seems like a lot. But is that just normal for them? It just seemed like a whole lot. I mean, the stock's getting crushed today. But it was like, wow, they must be expecting a really big Christmas. I saw a billion. I was like, oh my goodness, But what really took the market down in the initial part of the morning and pre-market was the PPI. And, it's up 7.7% year over year. We're going to get into this because it's not as bad as it looks. Versus 7.2 expected, 8.1% prior. Core PPI 6.2% versus 5.9%, which is estimated. But once you look at this chart very closely, you can see, yes, it's still really high, right, compared to where it used to be. But the trend is down. You see that on both the core and the headline, right? It's still coming down. It just didn't come down as fast as people thought it would come down. And this just shows you, yes, inflation is sticky. It takes time to bring down inflation, especially when a lot of people, and this is a big debate right now going on about wage price spiral and things like that. And because I showed you yesterday, people still getting raises, the earnings are still going up, right? And so I'm going to show you another chart in here that showed you, yeah, there might still be a lot of money out there, okay? And so, people got to keep that in mind when they're looking at this stuff. But again, the trend is down. It just takes time. I mean, you see the Fed forecast, what was it, like 4% by the end of next year? Still up to 4%. They're trying to get to 2, folks, all right? And that's still double what they're trying to get down to, if they can get it there. Obviously, their projections have been all over the place and wrong this whole time, so who knows if that's going to be correct or not. But, you look at the chart, what happened on the S&P? Nothing. Literally, all they did was hang us around. When I say they, I mean the market. Just stuck us right there on that 100-day moving average, ended right there on top of it, right there at the end of the day, as you can see right there. And if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate it. And if you're getting anything out of this, please hit the like and think about sharing the video, guys. And if you're wondering what I meant by this range it stayed in, it's something we were talking about in Discord, something we're going to start tracking in the Discord as well. And what we're talking about here is max pain, right? Because this was the weekly options expiring on Friday. The third Friday is really where this comes in at. But there's a site called maxpain.com. And so I went in there and I just drew this box, right? They said 395 was going to be max pain. The SPY would end around 395, which means you'll have the most options expiring basically worthless. And so I said, well, actually 394, I put 396, but if you look at the box, it's like 394 to 397 really is where it looks like you have all those major calls and those big spike in puts would just expire worthless, right? And if you look right here, here's the range, right? That's 394 on the bottom, 397 on the top. This is a 1-minute chart, right? And you can see 90% of the day, it stayed in that box until we got to the very end of the day. 7 minutes left in the market, which most time people had already sold these options or closed them out probably, or just forgot about them. And you can see that major spike in volume right there in like this last 7 minutes of the day. You see that right there? I mean, isn't that funny? But 90% of the time, it stayed in that box, right? That range right there. And so I don't think that's any, coincidence. But again, this is something I'm going to start tracking every day, but also especially on Friday, especially that third Friday of the month where we got monthly options expiring. That's always a big day. And see, because they can help you in trading, great. If you happen to have ever done this before, let us know in the comments if it does or doesn't. But if you have a good idea what range you're going to stay in, then it will actually help you out in trading, believe it or not, because you can see the bounces and stuff. As soon as we get outside that 397, what happened? Boom, major shift down. So anyway, we'll see. It's just an experiment and stuff. And again, if you want to sign up for the Discord, we do all kinds of stuff. Great community over there. You get 2 private videos a week on Wednesdays and Fridays, like I'm doing one today. And we end up doing trade and investment setups and ideas and things like that. So let's do the McDonald's combo, give it a shot. And that leads me to what I was talking about, money on the sidelines or still in these bank accounts, right? And this came out today. U.S. household net worth fell by $392 billion in Q3 this year. Much less severe than, look at that number, 6.3 trillion in the second quarter. And look at this chart. That's the second quarter. That's the third quarter. But here's what you got to do. You got to look up the top right here. Look at this right here. Look at all those big bars. Okay, that's from 2020 to 2021. All right, and if you look, if you take that big bar, it's basically those kind of like negate each other out, right? So they're toast. Right, we'll cancel those out. That big one cancels the other big one out. But then look at all those other huge gains in net worth, right? And so that leads you to believe, I'm not sure what income class those people in, but there's a whole lot of money still out there that was made from 2020, 2021. They have not lost, right? And so again, that's what's throwing all of these stats off when it comes to them trying to do forecasts and everything else and these models. You don't know, right? And I mean, I think the new motto should be, instead of don't fight the Fed, don't fight the consumer, right? Because so far the consumer, that'd be us, still spending. And this Christmas data, this right here, what happens in this fourth quarter, I'm sorry, in December right here, that's going to show a lot. Like if we come out and people can say we're running up debt all we want, we're a debt-ridden society. You know, I'm not saying it's good, trust me. But as long as you got a job, and especially as long as you're getting raises to pay off those credit cards, you can run those credit cards up all you want. It's not a good thing, right? And I do think there's certain income brackets that are in deep trouble. But if you see a strong Christmas, like you saw with the Black Friday and the Cyber Monday, hey, and I just saw something, a stat was talking about imports, exports, and all that stuff across the world, not just here, across the world are up massive, and not just because of inflation. So it's mind-boggling, to be honest with you. But that's what's happening. And, I always get this question. I always talks about, do we hit a bottom? And I'm going to do another video for that. I already recorded it, but I'll put it out Wednesday next week for the members to kind of show them, to let them decide, like, here's the data, make the decision for yourself, right? Because there's an argument be made that October was the bottom. Then there's an argument be made it wasn't. The one reason I don't believe it was because I've done a members video for them talking about oil and stuff, right? Look at oil's rolled over, man. Oil has tanked, right, since June. But look at what's going on with S&P Energy Index. You go into XLE, whatever you want to go into, and it's still strong as can be, right? And there's never been a bottom without this happening. And not in the 21st century, that is. This just never happened, not in a real bear market, okay? And it could be the first time. Never know. And what I'm curious about is oil's going to make a rebound, because here's my question. I'm not a big oil guy, but look at this right here. So here's the reserves. That looks like a meme stock chart, first of all. I mean, look at the drop, right? We haven't been this low since 84. And my big question is, when do they got to start buying this back, and at what price? Like, is there a set date, or are they just going to keep depleting this down, right? I know why they're doing it. They're trying to get oil prices down, to get gas prices down. And guess what? I don't know if it's what's doing it, but it's working, because every time I look at gas prices, they're going down in the majority of the country. Okay, I know some people are going to say in the comments theirs isn't, maybe yours isn't. But, the bigger question I have is, if that's the case, if that is one of the factors doing that, well, what's going to happen when they start buying it back? That's the bigger question. That's a lot. I mean, remember they were doing 1 million barrels of oil a day since like March? I thought they stopped it in November. That's what I thought. I don't know if they extended it or not. I didn't see any news on that. Maybe they did. Let me know in the comments if you happen to know that. But another thing, I found this came out today. Actually, I'm sorry, this didn't come out today, but I found this today. And you would think, I don't know about you, but you would think, if you didn't know any better, that we produce hardly any oil, right? Because we import so much. All you do is hear about Middle East and Russia oil. You never hear about American oil, right? So you think, man, we must not produce a whole lot. And then I found this today, and it says, the world's biggest oil producers, oil production by country in 2021, and look who's at the top. It says the United States. I'm like, really? So we produce 16.6 million barrels of oil per day, and that's more than Saudi and Russia and Canada. And that's more than Saudi Arabia, Russia, Canada, Iraq. I was just stunned. I was like, really? Like, we produce the most per day, at least in 2021 we did. Maybe everybody else is shutting down and not producing. I don't know. But, it's like, really? I never would have guessed that. Let me know in the comments if you got different stats. But I just found that mind-boggling. And I understand, I know why we import so much oil, to be honest with you. But, it's another reason why we buy a lot of stuff we don't really need from other countries, because, we want to keep world trade up and help support other economies and do all this fun stuff. That's just the way it is. The same way we send money to countries that are fighting other countries and all this other stuff. So, and then here we cut our budget and say we can't afford the Special Olympics anymore. And then we go, wait a minute, we got shamed by the media. Okay, we can afford it, that kind of stuff. But that's a whole nother whole nother video I'll never do. But yeah, I found that just mind-boggling that we produce that much oil, and then like the gas prices got as high as they did. I'm like, really? And then obviously we got a whole lot in reserves, right? And so yeah, again, that's way beyond my scope. And I know a lot of you guys who watch this, some of you guys I know are really big into the oil trade and the oil field. So, feel free to educate us. I don't mind. I love to learn. And so, yeah. And so, what are we setting up for next week? It's simple. They kept us where they kept us in that box today to keep us right on that 100 moving average. I showed you the chart. If the hourly busted through that, it was super bearish, right? So they couldn't allow that to happen, right? Because next week, what do we got? I think it's the 13 and 14, correct me if I'm wrong, where we're going to have CPI and then the Fed does their rate hike. It's like 100% people are going for 50 basis points. But then again, with PPI coming in where it did today, people think, well, what's that mean for CPI, right? But again, I just feel like when I say them, the market is setting us up just, to keep us where we're going to be in a box until we get CPI, and unless something disastrous comes out, and then the Fed does something crazy and does 75, and if they do 25, we're rocking them, by the way. But even if they just do 50, they come out with a stat today that every single economist they survey said 50 basis points. Every one of them. Hadn't happened the entire year, but 100% of those economists that, usually get surveyed said it's going to be 50 basis points. So that should be baked in. We should know that, right? So unless CPI comes in crazy, the Christmas rally is still on as far as I'm concerned. So, or Santa rally, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see. But that's, again, I think I said in the Discord this morning I was looking at the 1 minute chart going over and the 2 minute chart, 3 minute chart. It was like dying by 1,000 cuts, man. It was just miserable. There was no range. It was just doing this the whole time, for like 2 hours. And so there's a reason for all that. It's all in the plan, right? It's all this big master plan that the big boys got worked out. So anyway, let me know what you think. CPI is going to come in at next week. You think it's coming below, hit expectations, or above expectations? And do you think that the Fed is actually going to do 50 basis points, 25, or surprise us, yeah, right, with 75, right? And because it don't matter what comes out on CPI, they got their mind made up. They're not going to change it within 24 hours. I can imagine that, okay? And so anyway, and how the market's going to react and receive it. Bearish, bullish, hawkish, dovish, whatever word you want to use. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good weekend. And hit the like and share the video if you don't mind. Sure appreciate it. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. And I'll see you guys Sunday.